A black waitress was going about her shift, serving customers like any other day. But when a quiet man finished his meal and handed her a note, something incredible happened. She opened it and burst into tears. What could have been so moving? Here's the twist. The man wasn't just anyone. He was the legendary Clint Eastwood. And the note he left behind would change her life forever. If you're intrigued, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Meet Jasmine. She's a young black woman with big dreams and even bigger responsibilities. Every day she wakes up before the sun, puts on her uniform, and heads to the diner where she works long shifts, serving customers with a smile, even when the day feels like it might break her. Money's tight, and sometimes it feels like she's working just to stay afloat. But Jasmine doesn't complain. She pushes through, putting her heart into every plate she serves, hoping one day her hard work will pay off. She knows that every shift is a step towards something better, for herself and for her family. But today was different. Today, something was about to happen that would change everything. It was just another busy afternoon at the diner when the door swung open. Jasmine didn't think much of it, another customer, another order. But then, a man walked in. He was older, dressed casually, blending in with the rest of the crowd. Nothing seemed unusual about him, just a quiet guy looking for a meal. She didn't know who he was, but to the regulars, he was just another face. What Jasmine didn't know, though, was that this ordinary man was none other than Clint Eastwood, Hollywood legend, icon, and someone whose presence would soon leave her speechless. Jasmine didn't bat an eye when he walked in. She had seen all kinds of customers, some grumpy, some chatty, some even a little rude. But this man? He was just another quiet diner patron, someone who came in, sat down, and ordered like anyone else. She took his order with the same friendly smile she gave to all her customers. No second thoughts. No starstruck moment. In fact, she barely even looked twice at him as she went about her job. To her, he was just a man looking for a quick bite. A man who didn't stand out in the crowd. Little did she know, the person sitting at her table wasn't just any diner regular. This was Clint Eastwood, and he was about to change everything. As Jasmine made her way to Clint's table, she noticed he wasn't the type to make small talk. He simply smiled politely as she introduced herself, took his order, and quickly jotted it down. She appreciated the quiet customers. They made her job easier. The only thing she thought was a bit unusual was how he observed everything. The way he looked around the diner, the way he seemed to take in the hustle of the place. There was something thoughtful about him, but nothing that screamed famous actor. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't demanding. He was just there, enjoying his meal like anyone else. But then, just as Jasmine was walking past another table, she overheard a comment from one of the regulars. A man, probably in his late 30s, sneered and mumbled under his breath. "What's with all the old guys trying to act young? Must be in here for the free coffee." His words weren't loud, but they carried enough for Jasmine to hear. She glanced back at Clint. He hadn't flinched. He hadn't even seemed to notice. He just kept quietly eating as if the world around him didn't exist. Jasmine felt a twinge of discomfort but shrugged it off. After all, it wasn't the first time someone made a comment like that about an older person. She didn't know who he was, but his calmness and silence somehow made him seem different, like he didn't care about the nonsense that others spoke. Little did she know, he wasn't just any old guy. This was Clint Eastwood, and his presence in that diner would soon speak louder than any words ever could. After finishing his meal, Clint calmly placed his napkin on the table, stood up, and grabbed his coat. He didn't make a scene, didn't leave a mess, just a quiet, respectful exit. But then, just as he was about to walk out the door, he paused. With one final look at Jasmine, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He placed it on the table alongside a generous tip, his eyes meeting hers for a moment, before he turned and walked out. Jasmine stood there, frozen for a second. She wasn't sure what to make of it. It wasn't unusual for customers to leave a tip, but a note? That wasn't something she came across every day. She felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Should she read it now? Or wait until later? Part of her hesitated, unsure whether it was something important or just another random message from a stranger. But there was something about the way he handed it to her. Like he knew she would understand. Like he wanted her to read it and know that it mattered. So, with a quiet breath, she slowly unfolded the note, her fingers trembling just a bit as she peeked at the first line. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the note. It was written in neat, careful handwriting, something that immediately stood out to her. The words weren't rushed, like someone who wanted to get their thoughts across quickly. No, this note felt deliberate, personal. She read the first line. I've seen a lot of people in my life, but few have the heart you do. Jasmine blinked, her breath catching in her throat. She looked around the diner for a moment, as if trying to make sense of what was happening. She read on. Your smile, your kindness, the way you serve every customer like they matter. That's rare. And I want you to know, your hard work and grace are noticed. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less than you are. The world needs more people like you. Jasmine's heart raced. The words felt like a hug, like someone had seen everything. The long hours, the sleepless nights, the exhaustion she often carried but never showed. She had been pushing through life, giving her all, but never really knowing if it was enough. And here, in this small note, was someone she had never met, acknowledging all of it, telling her she mattered. Then, at the bottom of the note, the words hit her hardest. You're doing more than you know. Keep going. The tears came before she could stop them. Her vision blurred, and she felt a lump in her throat that wouldn't go away. In that moment, everything she had worked so hard for, everything she had sacrificed, felt validated. Someone had seen her, truly seen her. And it wasn't just anyone. It was Clint Eastwood. The man who had sat there, quiet and unassuming, had left her a reminder that the world was bigger than the small struggles she faced day to day. She stood there, staring at the note for what felt like forever, her chest tight with emotion. She wasn't just a waitress in a diner anymore. She was someone who mattered. And that simple note, it made her believe it for the first time in a long while. Jasmine stood there, the note still in her trembling hands, trying to steady her breath. It felt like time had stopped around her. The words in the note echoed in her mind, each one sinking deeper into her heart. But then, as she blinked back the tears, something caught her eye. A passing comment from one of the regulars at the counter. It was a woman, a little older, who had noticed Jasmine staring at the note with wide eyes. You all right, honey? The woman asked, eyeing the paper curiously. Jasmine nodded, wiping a tear away. Yeah, just a little overwhelmed. The woman smiled knowingly. I get it. You know who that was, right? Jasmine glanced up, confused. What do you mean? The woman nodded toward the door, where Clint had just left. That man, he's Clint Eastwood. For a split second, Jasmine froze. Clint Eastwood. Her mind raced, trying to process the name. She thought back to the quiet, unassuming man who had sat at her table. The man who had just left her that incredible note. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Clint Eastwood. The same Clint Eastwood she'd seen on the big screen countless times. The legend, the icon. She had just served him like any other customer, and he had left her a note that touched her soul. She felt a mix of awe and disbelief wash over her. Her heart pounded in her chest, and a smile spread across her face, though her tears still hadn't stopped falling. She had been serving Clint Eastwood, a man who had touched the lives of millions, and he had seen her. He had noticed her hard work, her struggles, and he had taken the time to acknowledge it. Jasmine sat down at the counter, still holding the note, feeling like her entire world had shifted. She thought of all the days she had doubted herself, wondering if she was doing enough, if anyone saw her effort. And now, here she was, holding the words of a man who had witnessed her kindness and resilience from across the room. That small gesture, a simple note, a few heartfelt lines, had left a lasting imprint on her life. It reminded her that no matter how invisible she sometimes felt, there were always moments when someone, somewhere, would recognize the true worth of her heart. And with that, Jasmine knew one thing for sure. She was never going to stop believing in herself, no matter what. Jasmine's story is a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary moments come from the smallest acts of kindness. She never knew that a simple day at work would lead to a life-changing moment. But Clint Eastwood saw something in her that others might overlook: the strength, the heart, and the quiet dedication of someone who gives their all, day in and day out. His note was more than just words. It was a recognition of everything she had done and everything she still had yet to do. In life, kindness and hard work may not always be acknowledged when we want them to be. But trust me, they are always seen. And sometimes, when we least expect it, someone will remind us that what we do matters even in ways we may never fully understand. So the next time you're feeling unnoticed, remember Jasmine. And remember that your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. It might just take a stranger, or even a legend, to remind you of your worth. What would you have done if you were in her shoes? Would you have felt the same way, or would you have been just as amazed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you loved this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. You never know when the next life-changing moment will be just around the corner.